Hey guys, how's it going? It is a gorgeous fall day here in northern New Jersey, and I figured it would be a great time to kind of do a follow-up on the video that I did last week of sprucing up this lower part of the garden where we had built some garden beds along our fence area. So if you guys hadn't seen that video and you want to check it out, I'm going to put a link in the description below. But I want to take you through 5 key things that I think can really help spruce up your garden beds, especially as you prepare your garden bed for the winter and thinking through next season into the spring. So the first thing that we're going to do is remove anything that I don't like the look of. So removing it in terms of either completely getting rid of it or just moving it to another part of the garden. So for me, that's going to be the sedum, that's going to be the Montauk daisies that completely look a mess right now. That's digging out some of the coral bells and some of the Japanese Hakanakloa grass that I had planted under the yews that don't look good. Moving the peonies into a different part of the yard, and then digging out the 2 hydrangeas that just are causing me more problems and I don't really enjoy looking at. I was originally going to go to the garden center and see what I can pick up in order to replace some of these spots. But then I thought to myself, well, I have plenty of things around that I can utilize. So why not just use what I already have? It's a great time to be doing that in terms of dividing and transplanting. And rather than spending more money on things that I probably don't need, just look around my garden and be a little bit more creative. So come on, let's get started. So now that I've removed everything I didn't like, the next step is to refresh the soil. Over time, the soil gets compacted and roots can't breathe and the water can just run off. So what I do is I grab a pitchfork and work my way through the bed, lifting and turning and wiggling the soil to loosen it up and let the air in. Once everything's fluffed, I spread a layer of compost over the top and use the fork to blend it in. It's a really simple step, but it completely re-energizes the bed and helps your plants take off again. All right, guys, so I've gone ahead and done step 1 and step 2. So step 1, like I had mentioned, was to remove anything that you no longer like the look of, whether it outgrew its space, whether it just doesn't look like it used to, whether whatever the case may be, just to remove everything, which I've gone ahead and done. The second part that I also did was just to take a pitchfork and work the soil a little bit so it's not so compacted, because sometimes when you try to remove an older shrub, those roots were really deep in there, and you have to make sure that that soil is nice and loose and fluffy if you want to plant something back in it. It's also a great time to add some compost and really work that in there with the pitchfork. Now, I don't necessarily remove all the roots of a shrub. I don't go crazy with that. I try to remove as many as I can, again, so that the dirt is not compacted. But I don't go crazy only because you want to leave some material in there for the microorganisms to break that down, because that further helps enrich your soil. So whatever it is, get it good enough so that you can plant something else if you want. Add the compost and you'll be good to go. So now the third part is the fun part. It's thinking through what I want to plant back in here. So my challenge with this bed is, one, it's man-made, so it's all beds are man-made, but it is a raised bed because, like I had mentioned in my previous video, the soil here is not good, and because it's on a slope, a lot of the water comes and it's an incredibly wet area. So what we ended up doing was basically building raised beds along the fence line. That said, I want to make sure it's something that has a fairly shallow root system, and the lighting is very strange. So right over here along the fence line, it gets fairly full sun and it gets blasted in the afternoon. So those hydrangeas that I had put there, the incredible hydrangeas, I'm leaving. But I think what I'm going to do is put some lamb's ear along the base of it, just as a ground cover to make that look a little bit nicer. This area right over here, and you can see right now it is in shade, it gets dappled light. So that's not going, that I don't think I'm going to put a hydrangea in there. Plus it's a much smaller raised bed area. And then that area right over there where I had taken the hydrangea out before gets sun in the summertime. It gets blasted from, I would say, um probably starting about 1 o'clock onwards. So that area can get really hot. Plus it's up against the black fence, so that radiate heats off of it a little bit more. So I want to make sure that I find something that is really, really tough as nails. So what I'm thinking is, I have some more encore azaleas that I can stick in there. And that'll do well in that area. And then what I want to also think through is what more things to put around it to make it a little bit more cohesive. So I do have some autumn fern that look really good right there. I'm surprised because, like I said, it gets so much light in the summertime, but it looks great. So I think what I'm going to do is just split up that autumn fern and put it on both sides, so that it looks a little bit cohesive, so it doesn't look lopsided. So let's start, and then I'll walk you through my thought process as I'm going along. I dug up this lamb's ear from the staircase to the lower yard because it was starting to impede on the walkway area. Lamb's ear is one of my go-to fillers for tricky spots. It handles heat and dry soil without any fuss, and it adds a velvety silver texture that instantly makes a bed feel more layered. It can be evergreen in mild winters and spreads very easily, and even helps suppress the weeds, which is really great for a plant that practically takes care of itself. All right, now, does that look great right now? And the answer is no. One, because the lighting's pretty bad. But two, also because I don't care about what it looks like right now. All I'm thinking about is what it's going to look like next year. Nothing right now as you transplant it is going to look its best. So keep that in mind as you're making your changes to your garden beds, that it's not about what it looks like right now, it's about what it's going to look like in the future. So I had actually moved this encore azalea, the specific variety is called Autumn Royalty, from another part of the garden because it was starting to show signs of root rot. Azaleas have shallow roots and really need lighter, well-drained soil, which is why I think this is a much better fit for it. What's great about Encore azaleas is that they bloom in both spring and fall, and the foliage adds beautiful color late in the season. I'm flanking both sides of the Encore azalea with the Japanese forest grass called Hakanakloa that I had dug out from another area of the garden. It looks really rough right now because it's been out of the ground for about a month, but I'm going to cut back all the leaves anyway for winter so I can focus on root growth. I'm also splitting the root ball straight down the middle to make two plants. The bright chartreuse color next to the pink azalea bloom should create a nice contrast that carries its way all the way down the bed. Now for the spot where I removed one of the hydrangeas. I was originally going to plant another Encore azalea here, but then I ended up changing my mind. They would have been way too close together and the sun in this section gets pretty intense. I was worried it might get scorched even though it's only about 10 feet away from the other one. So instead, I'm going to plant this panicle hydrangea. I don't know the exact variety, but I've been growing it in a large pot for the past 2 years, and it's developed a nice upright form that should do really well here. Plus, it's already proven that it can handle a full scorching sun. I also split the fern that you see on the left and added it to the right side of the hydrangea to allow for rhythm and repetition and more cohesion throughout the bed. All right, and so the last thing that I'm going to be sticking in here is this Japanese butterfly maple. So we had this in a different part of our yard, and it suffered from deer rub, which is something that we get in this area. So many deer problems. Not only do they like to kind of use your garden as a buffet, but male deers will also come and rub their antlers on trees and little baby trees to mark their territory, and it can oftentimes kill the tree if it's a little baby. So what I tried to do was try to save this as best I could. So I did dig it out. I did keep it in a pot for the better part of summer, and now I want to give it a home in this garden bed. So it is going to be under this tree. Two things. One, Japanese maples grow really, really slow. So when you buy a Japanese maple, they tend to be on the more expensive side because you're buying time. So one, I don't expect this to grow into this other tree very quickly, but the other thing is, in speaking with my neighbor, he did mention that he's going to be cutting this tree down sometime in the near future. So I think it's going to be okay. It'll still be shaded, so it's not going to crisp up and fry, and it'll also give it some more breathing room. So let's get this in the ground. All right, so on the other side of this path, we have our floating deck. And from here, I had removed in a previous video two Invincible hydrangeas that were just impeding the walkway. They weren't really blooming. They weren't really doing much. They were very, very floppy, and they just didn't look right. I still have hydrangeas in here. I don't remember the exact variety that I had planted, but I do remember that they stayed miniature. So I'm hoping that they kind of cascade over the side and give me some blooms. They didn't bloom for me this year, and I'm wondering if it's because the Invincibles just smothered them. So I'm going to give them one more season, and if they still don't bloom, then I think what I'm going to do is get more of that cascading Fairy Tale Bride hydrangea, because I think that would look really pretty cascading over the side. What I am going to do though is plant two gold cone junipers. These stay nice and compact. They only get about 1 to 2 feet wide, 4 to 5 feet tall. So this will be perfect for the space. It's appropriate for its root system. So I think it's going to do really, really well. And I think it'll be a nice little companion to the Henry Louder walking stick trees that we have here with this really interesting branch structure that's That really is the entire reason you would want to have it in your garden. It provides that winter interest once it loses its leaves. When it does have leaves on it throughout the summer, it's nothing much to look at. So let's get these in the ground. All right, guys. So we've gotten everything that we wanted in the ground. We split up some perennials that we wanted to mimic throughout the space. We thought about our winter interests. We thought about our fall interests. So everything feels like it's headed in the right path. Step 4 is to mulch. So one of two things that you can do. You can just get your regular mulch from your garden center that looks nice and tidy and beautiful, or you could use leaf mulch that's really going to enhance the quality of your soil. It really just kind of depends on your personal preference. The one that you get at the store also enhances the quality of your soil. It just looks a little bit nicer, in my opinion. That is just my opinion. If you use leaf mulch from your garden, the nice thing is that it's free and you can kind of just blow it in there. To me, it just doesn't look as tidy. But since my goal today was to not go to the garden center and spend any additional money, all I'm going to be doing is blowing all the leaves and the debris from the yard into the garden bed. The fifth and final thing to think through is your lighting. For me, lighting is that last detail that really elevates a garden to the next level. I had a bunch of old solar lights in here that needed replacing. I'm not going to do that today because I want to take my time finding the right ones that work well functionally and look good aesthetically and make sense financially. And of course, they're going to need to be sturdy because Leo loves to knock them over every chance he gets. I hope you guys enjoyed following along as I brought this garden bed back to life without spending a dime. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what part of the garden you're planning on reviving next. Bye.